Hello everyone, it's me, Alex Axe, and it's Wednesday, December something. I think it's the 6th. I don't really care. It's hump day, yay. I have some kind of weird red marks on my forehead because I just took my hard hat out, so please ignore those. Because now that we've covered those formalities, I actually just want to chew on your ear because I'm really mad about some stuff. Yesterday on Twitter, I saw some talking about like the concept of originality and how kind of new the concept of originality in literary work is, because, you know, like previously a lot of it was going back to the classics, and it was, people didn't really file the serial number marks off because, you know, it showed scholarship and lent an air of like authority and all that. And so the idea of art needing to be like really original and creative is pretty modern. And apparently this whole thing started because somebody said something really dumb about fan fiction, which I have now seen today, so I kind of approached it backwards. And I have a whole rant that I could have about fan fiction, and if I'm still mad about it tomorrow, maybe I will talk about it then. But what I actually do want to talk about is this entire notion of creativity and originality, especially because when I was talking about it yesterday on Twitter someone replied to one of my tweets and said that her teenage nephew is in this screenwriting thing, and he started telling her like all of his ideas, and he's just basically prefacing everything with, well, I know it's been done and it's probably bad, but. And that makes me so angry, just on behalf of all the little baby writers out there. But also, like, I know it is a problem that grown-up writers have too, and it's the whole idea of things having to be creative and original, as if it is some kind of end unto itself, is an incredibly poisonous one, and I'm so done with it. I just want to just set it on fire. If nothing else, first off, it plays into this really terrible, poisonous idea that artists are some kind of like hermetically sealed creativity machines that just sort of like, you know, sit out in the ether, and the universe beams creativity into our brains, and we produce unique ideas that have never before been seen and don't relate to anything. And that is just bullshit in and of itself, and having that in your head is incredibly damaging as an artist just to begin with, because, you know, you get to play the why am I not creative game. More on that later. But it's such a fallacy. It has nothing to do with how art actually works, because when you come down to it, artists are human beings, which maybe that comes as a surprise to you, but humans at our base are really just like ghosts composed of experience riding around in meat suits. And part of the experience that you have like your entire life experience, and part of that is the books you read and the movies you watch and the music you listen to. All of the art that you consume becomes part of you, and it's like the ectoplasm for your little ghost that's piloting your body around. And it's the ghost, you know, that person that is writing things. And when something is coming from within you, it's going to relate to all of the things that make you who you are. And part of that is the art that you have consumed, then that has touched you. So, you know, artists are not islands, and artists are not just like little engines that produce, completely unique ideas. And frankly, you know, the notion of there being like completely unique ideas at this point is one I kind of reject anyway, because I do ascribe to the notion that there are only so many unique configurations of plots and characters and all of that are out there. Now, I do want to note, just as an aside, that a lot of times when it's like, oh, there's only X number of plots and they're blah, 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 a lot of times that is just entirely focused on Western literary canon and just completely ignores that there are literary traditions throughout the world, and they have their own, you know, configurations of plot and character and all that. But that said, in the entire world and all of our literary traditions, I really do think that there is just a set number of what can be. And that is fine. So I think when I see criticisms of work as if it is creative or original or not, that actually says a lot more about the reviewer and their own experience and what they have consumed necessarily. because there have been times where I've seen people be like, oh, this thing is like super unique and I've never seen anything like it and it's the first time anyone's done this. And I'm like, I've totally read a thing that is similar, which is not to say the thing that they're talking about is bad, because a lot of times it's like, oh, that's super good. And I'm not going to like name things here because I just do not want to get into it. But, you know, it is this idea of like, I have read different things than other people, and, you know, reviewers have read different things. So what is going to strike you as being different from anything you've ever read before is not going to be the same as it is for everyone else. It's going to have, it's like this very, you know, personal thing. So that there's nothing wrong with that. Where it becomes a problem is when it becomes like this judgment call thing where it's like, oh, well, this work is good because I've never seen anything like it, but this other one is uncreative because I've seen a thing like it before. And I'm sorry, but telling an artist that they're not creative is basically like the most asshole thing that you can do to an artist, just to begin with. And then on the flip side of that, you know, there's the reader's experience with what is out there. There's also the artist's experience with what is out there. Because, for example, I've actually turned in short stories to writing groups before and had them get shit on because it was like, oh, well, this is really well written, you know, thanks. But it is totally like this other story that was written 40 years ago that I have literally never heard of, let alone read. At which point I'm sitting here going, how can you say that a piece of work I have produced is derivative of something that I have literally never even heard of? So there's that aspect as well. And one thing to consider is that with the number of people on this planet, you know, should come as absolutely no surprise when two or more, you know, multiple people who maybe have some similar experiences or just like the same thought hits them at the same time will produce similar things or have thematic similarities because we're all in the same world. So there's that. And that gets kind of sucked into this whole creativity argument. Like, okay, then at that point, who is creative and who is derivative when, you know, we're all thinking of this stuff at the same time, or we're coming up with things that you think are derivative, but it's of stuff that we've never encountered, etc., etc. But I also think that trying to judge things as levels of creativity is a giant bullshit red herring game anyway. Now, I will preface this by saying that there is some stuff out there that is obviously just like super derivative and it adds absolutely nothing that the original, you know, original work did not have in it. Like, I mean, let's talk about some movies that have been remade that are basically like shot for shot remakes, and maybe they update the special effects, but who gives a crap? So I will say, you know, there are things out there where you are just like, oh my God, this is exactly this other thing that has just, you know, I don't know why this got made. But to be honest, those things are very few and far between when you put it up against the body of work that is produced. So I just want to be clear about that. But I also want to note that, so when I went through screenwriting class, one of the things they keep hammering about is like, this is not you being like off in a chamber of art with your muse. You're there to sell scripts. And the way you sell a script is you find something they've seen before and loved and was successful, and you give it to them again, but with a twist that makes it new. So like everything when you're pitching is just like, it's like this movie plus this movie, but it's in space. So, you know, or like Alien, it's a haunted house monster movie in space, you know, so you're always coming in with this idea of comps and how it relates to other works. That's like baked into the entire notion because frankly, when you're doing screenwriting, you're trying to convince people who have money to give you that money so your script can get made, and then, you know, hopefully they will make their money back because you're riffing off something or relating it to something that was already successful. And screenwriting is not alien to other kinds of writing. And in fact, literary writing could take some really good cues from screenwriting because screenwriters know how to get the money. But it's not like literary writing is this heavenly thing that's all about the creativity, because frankly, when I was looking for an agent, one of the things that I had to do was come up with comp titles for the novel that I was trying to get them to represent. because you have to say, I understand where this piece of work fits in and how we can try to sell it to a publisher so the publisher knows how they can market it. And that's not to say like my thing is derivative and uncreative because I know where it fits into the genre as a whole. Like, that's never the idea, but it's also an acknowledgement that it's not like an island that has never been touched by another human being. And that's actually really okay, because the thing that this whole, like, oh, I want everything to be creative and unique thing misses is that we are building on this foundation of tens and hundreds of thousands of years of human storytelling tradition, and we are constantly in dialogue with our past and with our present and our ideas of the future. So it's a feature, not a bug. And the last thing I want to say about it is this emphasis on things being creative or not is just so poisonous, like, internally to artists. And one thing is, you know, because there are only so many plots and characters in the world, where the creativity really lies is in the detail. It's in the twist. It's in the voice that you have. So a lot of times I think when people are saying, oh, this is not, you know, well, I enjoyed this, but this wasn't creative, or I didn't think this was creative. A lot of times I think it's just like they don't get what you're doing, or they don't really understand your voice or the twist that you put on it. So there's that. But a lot of the reason is that gets into writers' heads, and you're like, oh, I have this cool idea, but oh, well, it's kind of like this other book or this other book, and I can see how someone could relate it to this famous novel, so they're just, you know, I guess I'm not very creative and I shouldn't do it. Like, take that and put it in a box and push it out to sea and then shoot it with fire arrows. Because this is the most important thing. Like, if no other part of my rant has made any kind of sense to you and you think I'm just blowing it out my ass, this is the part I really want you to listen to. What makes a thing important and creative and original is that you wrote it. Because it comes from you. Like, I don't give a shit if you want to write your own Sherlock Holmes. You're not Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Whatever you're going to do is going to come with your voice and through the lens of your experience and with your unique twist as an artist. And that is good enough. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't tell yourself that you're not creative enough, because what you are writing and what you are producing, as long as it is coming from within you and you are putting yourself into it and it has your voice, it is good enough and it is creative enough. Period. That's for fiction, that's for nonfiction, that's for everything. It's yours. And even if you do have similar experiences to other people, you are still you. You are your own unique ghost riding in your meat suit, and what you create is good and it's creative and it's good enough. And that's all I have to say about that. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, I guess share it, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye!